Apollos, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time to have a conversation with me. Would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Yeah. So I am Apollos Christian Apologetics. I got into this really weird side of the internet back when I was in high school, or going into high school, um, and eventually through a combination of experiences and through seasoned apologetics. Although I must say that I didn't necessarily come here to give a robust defense for the resurrection, because like I sort of live like a normal life too. Like it's not necessarily something I do full time, apologetics or investigating worldviews necessarily, but I am ready to talk about sort of like the tipping points of where I stand right now and like how those tipping points led me to become a Christian.
Okay.
Yeah. It's
Tell
good.
me more about the tipping point thingies.
Yeah, so this journey starts all the way back when I was in 7th grade. I attended a church youth camp, and the angst of adolescence was sort of getting into me. Um, and from that moment on, I began to see God just a little bit more. And by the time I moved to Texas, I was already engaged in apologetics in some sense, albeit at a seriously unacademic, like grade school level. Like I remember, like I was like bashing someone on Instagram, and it was me trying to prove Noah's Ark because of that weird formation on like Mount Ararat or something
Oh,
like that.
your mic just started scratching.
Oh,
Could you
really?
try unplugging it, plugging it back in?
Okay.
I think you might have to reselect it or whatever.
Okay.
Now it's better.
Yeti. Yeah, it should be on Yeti. Yep. Now it's better. Okay.
Yep.
When did I cut off?
You were in Texas doing apologetics, at like not at a professional level or something.
Yeah, like I didn't know anything about the minimal facts until like
Oh,
my
it
sophomore
just
year.
did it again. It's starting to scratch again. That's weird.
Okay. Uh-oh.
Um, do you have a
Should be
different mic
all.
you could try?
Is it still scratching?
No, now it's good.
Okay. If it scratches one more
Maybe it
time,
just
then I'll
wasn't plugged
change
in
it.
all the way.
Maybe.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, but yeah, I didn't know anything about the minimal facts until like sophomore year of high school. And I would watch debates with regarding Lacona and Habermas, WLC. Um, what else? But in that process, sort of like my narcissism sort of increased. And let me just read a section over here in my written testimony where I talk about how narcissistic I became. Um, Indeed, by this time, I had slowly immersed myself in from the world of a supposedly saved Christian to an unhealthily obsessive Christian debater. There is no genuine desire to respect sensitivities, but rather to crush them. There is no genuine desire to come to new understandings, but to assert them. There is no genuine desire to save people, but to mock them for their destination for the hellfire. Any opportunity I could get to speak anything remotely close pertaining to Christianity was an opportunity for me to go into debate mode. That sort of is like my setting. I really didn't like have a community where like I could like sort of like talk about any of this because when you're in high school, it's all about high school stuff. You know what I'm saying? Um, but at the same time, I loaded myself with AP classes beginning my sophomore year, and for any peeps still in high school right now, this is nowhere near a conducive setting to exploring what you are passionate about. Eventually, I found myself asking questions. Some of them were stupid, like how can we know? How can we have any certainty at all about the historical past existing? Or like how can we know that any of the 12 were martyred for their faith? At least from my perspective, as a teenage apologist, that was originally supposed to be my handle, but I moved out of my teenage years when I became a Christian. So um, that was the only way, at least for me, how I could differentiate between uh, the Christophanies and something like Our Lady of Zion through the apostolic martyrdoms. So I read First Clement, uh, and Acts and like the Gospel of John, Josephus, and some others, and I just couldn't find myself like putting it all together. And fair enough, like I was like, what, in high school, really stressed with AP classes, like I don't want to read the Joy Luck Club, man. I want to talk about Christianity. Yeah, but uh up until this point, this was the one thing that sort of kept me going, was Christianity. um and I wasn't really sociable or in tune with the culture, something I still lack to this day, by the way. And the afterlife, that one was a big one for me. So eventually I found myself rejecting Christianity, which um at December or November, was it, of like I've somewhere in my notes of my high school notes of me slowly going mad, of 2016. Yeah, I would have been a sophomore by then in high school. And like I didn't attend Christmas services or parties, and if I did have to attend like something like a funeral, I was just alone upstairs thinking of how I wasted the past 3 years leading to sophomore year investigating and researching a religion that wasn't true. Um, let's see here. And then let me just read another section from my written testimony. The next high school sophomore semester was a huge drag at first. Signs of depression were so obvious, teachers would call counselors for me, asking if I was all right. I cut off my ties with my local church and surrendered my vice president position.
Scratching again.
Oh, damn. Yeah, that does it. Um, let's do this. Um, this is a lot lower quality, but we'll see what happens.
Right.
Yeah, just let me know if it scratches on this one too.
Right.
And I cut off my ties with like our local like Christian club in high school. And given how I was open to a few people, including
it's happening on that one too.
Really?
Yeah, I think it might be like a buffering thing where it's like slowing down and then speeding up. So it's like the buffering gets slowed down and then just like goes really, really fast, and that's what's probably causing the scratching. So you can switch back to the other mic, I think, because I don't think it's the mic that's the issue.
Okay then. That's weird because I'm on Ethernet. So I wonder if there's like a quality of service thing that's interrupting it or something like
Maybe.
that. Yeah. Yeah, but given how I was open to a few people, including my pastor, about my apostasy, I'm sure like rumors had spread more broadly about my change, about how this extravagant, super devout Christian like sort of became the somber, like really quiet, like really into himself kind of dude who really didn't care about church anymore. Like we even hired, my family hired at that time a therapist that specialized in existential crises, and yes, they do have those things. And one night, I even remember confessing to one of my friends that I wasn't a Christian, and I made this remark, and it's not that I have plans or anything, but I was just expressing my emotions. It's like, how convenient would it be for me to have an army? I remarked. But despite that,
are you using what internet browser are you using?
I'm using Chrome.
Chrome should work. I don't know. That shouldn't be it either.
Okay. Maybe it's this.
Hmm.
Maybe it's because I was like, I had like the live stream thing open. I just saw one of my tabs. Damn. Okay, try his camera off. Okay, I can do that.
Give it a shot.
Okay. Yeah. And then
Nope, still happening.
oh really?
Yep. So it's not the camera.
I have
Do you have like
gigabit.
a
That's
what?
weird. Like gigabit speed.
Yeah, I don't know. Hmm. We could try like Zoom or something, see if that works better.
Okay.
Do you have Zoom?
I do. Would that mean I'd have to repeat everything again, or?
No, because the live stream is still live streaming. So I'm just going to change which window is selected. So send me put a Zoom invite into the private chat. I'll join that one, and you can just keep going from there. See,
Okay.
try that one work.
Yeah, sure. Zoom. Let me log into my Pulse account. Pray for better internet. This two-factor authentication. Here we go. Unusual sign in. I live here, man. It's 293.
I have my website set to delete all my cookies when I close the screen. So I have to like manually log into all the sites I don't have saved to not do that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, this is my Pulse account. All right, I'm logged in. Just let me know.
Send me an invite.
Oh, okay.
Post it in the private chat.
Bro, I have a Ryzen like 7, so it's not my CPU.
Well, I mean, it definitely couldn't be your CPU. Wouldn't be causing that. It can only be the internet's.
New meeting. All right. Link. Where do I find my ID, by the way? My meeting ID?
Your ID. What?
My meeting
What
ID?
ID?
So that you can join?
There should be, after you say create new meeting, there should be invite and a big invite button somewhere. Invite people. And it's like copy link.
Okay. Copy the ID. Testing.
So
Okay, so
many-
Zoom picks this up.
What? Oh, to your audio.
Okay.
Okay. Normally you send like a link, just the full link.
Okay then.
Meeting passcode.
Really? Hold up.
Have I ever worked in tech support, Tom? Have you tried turning it off and turning it back on? That's the
Yeah,
90% tech support.
I just turned it on and turned it
No, that was
off.
responded to somebody in the chat. It wasn't for you.
Oh, okay. Can you send an invite?
What?
Do you mind if you send an invite? Because I'm
All
not
right,
sure what.
cancel. Well, I don't have mine has a 40-minute time limit because I don't have the paid version.
Oh, okay.
But if you go on Zoom, join meeting, I can
Okay.
Zoom.us host sign in host meeting with video on, open the Zoom app thingy. I don't care about that. All right, there should be there's a at the bottom it says join audio video security split screen, then more, under more there's an invite, and alt I is the short key.
Okay. Let me exit out of here. You said below.
Where it says next to mic, join audio video security, participants, chat, share screen, record.
Yeah. Okay, I see it. All right. Record live transcript.
All right, so go to where it says participants.
Okay, I got you. Invite.
Yeah, click invite, and then should be a copy invite link,
Got it.
and post that in the private chat.
Yep.
Yes. Digital Gnosis. My camera does that when I pull up multiple programs that use the camera. I have to refresh the page to fix it. Turn it off and turn it on. Put that guy on. Close. End. Join meeting. Click on that. Launch meeting. Open.
There we go.
Join with computer. All right.
All right, I'm gonna close out this studio thing.
Yep.
Okay.
Share screen. Share audio. All right. I'll close this guy. No, that's not what I want to do. This guy. Start video. Testing. All right. You can hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right.
You can't start video or something?
Well, my videos on my being picked up by my other program.
Oh, okay.
Video
Do you think it's
settings.
because it's open somewhere else?
Yes, for me, which is fine.
Okay.
And I can go hide that, turn that off. All right, 1 second. All right. All right. And then derp. There we go.
Right.
Okay. Now it should be
Yeah, I
working.
see you. Yeah. So yeah, I was basically like super depressed, even though it didn't show. Like, I thought about suicide during that time. It was a really dark time. Um, we can start, by the way, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been going the whole time. We were still live the whole time. So
Oh, okay. Um, so while high school was still like being fluid and all that, I eventually met this girl who was like super friendly to me. Long story short, uh uh basically it didn't work out. Um just scrolling here and then a bit I don't know how detailed I want to be and go into this, but like basically what happened was um it started off with me like taking like phraseologies of like people like that weren't even directed towards me, and I applied it to myself. So like say for example like my English teacher would talk about like obsessive and narcissistic people, I would think to my head, oh, maybe she has me in mind. Um, and then it started to grow to the point where like um, I would begin to have like paranoid delusions, like I was being followed somehow. Like I'd see her in a movie theater or at the dentist or in another country or at Kumon, because Asians do that. Um, I'm Asian, by the way. Look
surprise.
for every yeah. I watch for every detail, phrase, or anything that I could piece together in my incoherent thoughts. Um, and at one point, one of my teachers said something like, I have no idea what she was talking about up to this day, but she mentioned these phrases. Um, I am being bullied. This is not my fault. There was this recording, and I washed my hands clean. Those four phrases inspired my delusion that I was somehow being like stalked with surveillance cameras. Um, and there's too much I don't know about what happened to me in the past. Um, and it's unclear whether uh, I could even like identify her in public. But my auditory hallucinations were a clear product of my individual mind. For example, I recall thinking that I was hearing moaning coming from my friend's house upstairs. Um, and then my parents called me out on my outrageous thoughts. On a field trip to Europe, I was eavesdropping on a conversation with her and her friends who were apparently in a secret section at the back of the plane. I mean, like in the moment, like it's really hard to be convinced that something like that like just doesn't happen. But when you're like in the moment, like when you're like hearing that constantly and like you sort of like forget to like think um outside of that box. Like it just becomes so repetitive to the point where it kind of like subdues you to like thinking that you're actually being followed. Um Not a day went by when I wasn't actively listening for those voices. Every day and night, I could only imagine was a living hell for my family. Me being an insomniac, not knowing what I would do next. The same morning before they demanded I head to the emergency room to prove my sanity, to which I obviously agreed to, or sorry, which I agreed and obviously failed. I was being chased by their cars across fields in my attempt to confront the people trying to stalk me. Um, Instead, I discovered that I had apparently supersonic and transcendental hearing abilities. in the emergency room, I received word from these voices that I had to obey their every instruction, listening to them only and not the outside real world, lest I become the prophesied Antichrist. But these voices, if they had any intention, they wanted nothing but my ultimate bondage as I continued to cross the boundaries of reality using my apparent telekinesis to communicate to the world that I was a good human being. One night, they told me to go naked, wrap my clothes and my waist, and twist. Another time, when my parents tried to discharge me, the voices told me to resist their trap and stay in the hospital. And because of that, I was nowhere near safe to be around other people who were having similar issues. And so, in great self-control, I persisted. I persisted by thinking of the good food at home, the comfort of a good mattress, and not being force-fed medication with the threat of a more severe mental asylum. In my short period of insanity, I believed in God, insofar that I was like the devil sort of thing. Um, but regardless, the idea is that uh, I really barely managing to pass tests of counting in sevens backwards. The doctors eventually gave in to discharging me. I said goodbye to many other people there in that hospital who I knew would be stuck in the system for a, who I sorry, who I knew had been stuck in the system for up to a month due to misunderstood circumstances, according to what they have said. Unlikely to get out anytime soon, but we went back to our unknown home cities. Um, uh, I was taught self-control, but I was nowhere near cured of my insanity. The mental damage seemed to be done, and many medical professionals simply could not understand what had happened to me and my inability to coherently describe my experience at the time. All I knew was that I would not accept that I was mentally deteriorating. Enrolling in SAT review classes and Kumon, I prepared myself for the worst outcome in junior year of high school. In distress of receiving a failing grade, I took the first steps towards suicide by running outside of home with a knife in search of a force to hang myself, even though that doesn't even make any sense, right? If you're going to hang yourself, you're going to use a noose, right? Although I can see now there was no nearby force to commit suicide. Several nights were spent up in anticipation for an answer from the police whether I would be emancipated from my parents, who clearly were trying to instigate a surveillance against me. Several police reports were filed against classmates for hacking my personal devices. But later I confirmed the police never took them seriously, not even contacting or questioning who I accused due to their baseless and outlandish claims. One answered question I still contend to this day is uh was the fact that I later found out that people were starting to question about me. Um like actually go up to my family members and ask if I was all right, sort of thing. And I don't know, maybe that might have been out of concern or something, but like
So how
I
did
would get
this lead to your conversion to Christianity?
yeah. Uh it was just that whole spiel of like me going insane. Like, I mentioned that because this is around the same time I believed that you couldn't like prove the historical past existed, and I sort of like rejected object permanence. Like, it does damage to you, um, and because of that, I think I had like a really inconsistent worldview that was like basically unlivable. Um, and I understand that not everyone goes through that, you know. But at least it's possible to go down that route if you deconvert. Um, um, so eventually I found myself like in a in like a summer dual crediting English class,
Well,
and
like,
then
I don't need the whole story. Just need like summary points. How did you?
yeah, I'm
How
getting
does
to
this
that.
lead to Christianity?
Yeah. So like basically he asked me to he leads me into writing paper about Christianity. By this time, I wasn't like even thinking about like uh Christianity or like worldviews or anything like that. I was just trying to like ace it in high school for whatever I could at that time. Um, I know.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
reading the chat. The chat is making jokes.
yeah, it's fine. I mean, I knew exactly what would happen after I come out with this story, but like it's whatever.
Oh,
It's my story.
other jokes, not specifically related to you.
Oh, okay. Um, let's see here.
Someone just had a blonde texted me on my phone because my phone went off.
So some of these tipping points like were like so one of the things I really struggled with like are those the list of appearances in the First Corinthians 15 creed, right? Are those necessarily group appearances? Because the Greek word altheo alone is not alone to say that. Um, but what convinced me is that uh, if you look into the passage, it's quite clear that it's doing it in like a timeline sort of fashion. It's like he appeared, then he appeared, then I think it's like kata something.
Wait, how did we get
Um,
to? How did we get to Corinthians?
because I'm writing at this point, I'm writing like a Christian. I'm writing an English paper, a persuasive English paper, um, on Christianity.
All right, and this story had an effect on you or something.
Yeah. So the way I put it, even though Lee Strobel is not exactly like a pro apologist, like I pulled a Lee Strobel, if, for whatever you could call it.
Pull the least trouble.
Yeah. Um. So yeah, First Corinthians 15. So we established that it's one appearance, and then this happened, and then this happened, and for each appearance, you do have instances where they are collectively, you know, surmised in like groups. Um, Another thing was the idea of like the disciples doubting the risen Jesus whenever they come to witness his appearance. But then like I this one I solved before I like came to Christianity, but basically like the idea is that they're doubting, but they didn't reject the risen Jesus, right? You know, like they're not sitting there like no 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 we're done with this sort of thing. It's more like they're really like bewildered or like if you will like really questioning whether or not they're questioning sort of like uh sort of like how this can be given their preconceptions about Jewish eschatology. Um, what else? Some other things were like in First Clement, right? Um, it wasn't clear to me at the time that it was talking about martyrdom because uh the word martyros in its earliest form actually just means to witness. And it was around this time where the definition started to switch to mean to die for one's faith. Um, let's see here. Eventually, it came to the point where it was like, where I was looking at the context, right? And then Peter and Paul were talking about having because they they martyros, they departed to the place of glory. In other words, they died. The very nature of the word athleo means to surmount a strong adversity as an athlete overcomes a long race or fight to the finish line. And it is through martyros that they died, and persecution was the reason why martyros happened in the first place. In other words, they didn't just like sit back, just chilling in Galilee with the boys, fishing, and like died, and somehow that's martyros. know, they struggled, they suffered, they were persecuted, and then they were martyred. Um, and then you also have like Greek mythological allusions to the Danaids and Dirke. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I've been pronouncing that way for like years. Um, and it's characteristic of the euphemistic language being employed.
Can you go the
Um,
other direction? Start with like when you converted to Christianity,
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah. So this is the
this
process of me converting to Christianity.
go backwards? Start from like the moment you converted, then tell a story backwards.
What do you mean by that?
Um,
Like timeline?
start yeah, start at the ending. Start when you converted. What what
Okay.
what was that? When did you convert? And what was the final straw that broke the camel's back?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, besides like the like all of this technical stuff that I was like getting that I had issues with, um, it was really just this idea that I was being sort of like hypocritical in my logic. It's what
Sucks.
happened?
That was my end. My end froze.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I thought it was me.
No, it was definitely my end.
Oh, okay. Um, but basically it was the idea that I was being hypocritical with my logic. That I needed like basically like 99 or close to basically 100% proof to believe in anything. Um, and I remember like someone telling me that in other areas I don't necessarily do that. I look for the most reasonable explanation for what had happened, the more plausible explanation, the more probable explanation. By the way, by the time this happened, I had already recovered from my, you know, cuckoo stuff like months earlier. I don't know if I made that clear.
Right.
Um,
So I'm following you that you had the position that you needed absolute certainty for things. Some people told you you don't use that for everything, so it's inconsistent. And so I agree with that part.
yeah.
And how did you get from there to Christianity is true, not naturalism?
Oh, well, because like, sorry, form assembly. Um, it's more so that it's more so like it is just like the poke that tossed down the house of cards. Because I would always ask like, why is that the case? Why is that the case? Why is that the case? Sort of like Socratic method sort of thing. When I wasn't necessarily, it was almost like I was looking for an extra reason to back up my case all the time. Um, and whenever it came to a stopping point, I wasn't satisfied. So I I just came in with that new mindset. I'm going to find out what most probably happened. Um, and I ended up becoming a Christian in the process. And even like,
Go through that one. How did you get to the conclusion that Christianity is the most probable explanation rather than a natural explanation?
oh, like through uh the resurrection, like minimal facts sort of thing. Um, and like I said, like I didn't. I've like been a Christian long enough to know that there's just so much information to keep in one's head, uh, to sort of like there's more information out there that uh like I know there's definitely information out there. I've come across it obviously. So like whether or not I can whether or not I can you know necessarily give a comprehensive defense in this uh live stream, which wasn't my intention nonetheless. uh I know that there are ways to do it, you know.
So you were searching for the most probable explanation and you landed on Christianity. So why is Christianity the most probable explanation?
Because of the resurrection minimal facts historical bedrock argument.
Okay, why does that make Christianity more probable than no resurrection?
For a whole slew of reasons. I mean, I've like done videos on it and stuff, although I have to update those. Um,
Well,
but
like what?
yeah,
Because I
that's
don't
that.
understand why that would make it more likely that Jesus rose from the dead than it was like a bereavement delusion or something. So I don't understand how that gets you to the
Well, for
most
one thing,
probable.
so I personally know that through bereavement and delusions that people don't like go continue with their lives with this conviction of having a bereavement delusion. Eventually, you just snap out of it. Like,
What? That's no,
yeah,
no.
what do you mean?
Well, like the
I mean,
vast.
I mean, yeah, yeah. I know you're an atheist, and so of course you see like religions as like delusions, but like,
Well, no, no. So I'm specifically talking about bereavement delusion. So the vast majority of people throughout time have seen bereavement delusions. It's like 60% of people who have a loved one who die see and hear and touch dead loved ones after they're dead because of psychosomatic responses in the brain. Before we knew anything about psychology, that didn't just
mm,
go away. People thought they were literally talking to their dead loved ones. So why would that not make sense in the case of the apostles?
because they're not analogous. Because the apostles like literally went to their graves like in this with this conviction.
What difference would that make?
They were sincere,
People sincerely believe they speak and hear dead loved ones. Why would that?
not
That's the
sincere
same.
enough to the point where they're willing to die for it.
Well, that's the part I'm asking. Like, why does that make a difference? That doesn't seem to affect
It's
anything.
how much they believe in it, how much they're
Right,
convinced by it.
right. But the level that they're convinced by it doesn't indicate its truth. Like flat earthers are very convinced the world is flat. If they would be willing to die for it, would that make it more
So
likely that the world
I
is flat?
contest that because the the mode of perception is still within that person. So actually, whether or not they are convinced does play a role.
I don't know
Whether or
what that
not
means.
it
So like, say
okay,
we have a
so
flat earther, person who believes the world is flat. So you have 100 flat earthers, and they're all willing to die for their belief, and they're tortured and killed, and they never give up belief in flat Earth. Does that increase the probability that the world is flat?
if they were living on the earth, and this is a hypothetical scenario, and this is by the way, I reject this. I reject this hypothetical scenario. Um, and instead, and as a matter of fact, let's how about we twist it this way? If you had 100 people who believed that the earth was round and sincerely died for it, well, if they, like study the earth and like astronomy and like
Well, that's irrelevant because the question here is, does the level of conviction
yeah,
affect?
because their conviction is based on the fact that they have, witnessed and all these proofs and all of these,
Right, that's
you know,
irrelevant. So what question? The
how is
question
it
is,
irrelevant?
does the level of conviction have any effect on the truth? So, like, I agree with the evidence part. Like, if they have conviction because they have evidence, the evidence matters. The evidence increases the probability it's true, but the level of conviction doesn't. So, say someone has zero level of conviction. Say
Yeah,
they
the
they have,
evidence matters. I agree with that.
well, yeah, but the level of conviction does not. That's the question. Does the level of conviction matter? So, say someone has a bunch of evidence the world is round, and some flat earthers are going to kill him, and he's like, "I grant the world is flat. I don't care at all." Does
Hello,
that
sorry.
decrease the likelihood that the
I think
world
I got
is
a notification. Sorry,
okay?
sorry. Can you say that again?
Right, right. So, say there's somebody who studied the world, found out it's round, has all the facts, but has zero conviction. Zero conviction. So a flat earther comes up to him and says, "We're going to kill you if you don't convert to flat Earth." Like, all right, I convert to flat Earth. Don't care. Does that make him more less? Does that make him less likely to be correct that the world is round? Or
Well, that's different because number one, we assume he had all of that evidence.
that's what you
Number
were doing.
two,
You said that in your previous example. They had all this evidence, therefore that's why they're convinced. So the point here is to show that the level of
yeah,
conviction
because
is irrelevant.
their conviction is no, because their conviction is literally on the basis of what they have seen, what they've witnessed.
right? But I don't care about that. I care about is the level
Okay,
of
then
conviction.
you don't care about it.
Say there's
That's
two
totally fine.
apostles.
But
Say one apostle dies for his belief, and one apostle says, "Nah, I'm just going to keep going. I'll give up." Does Is one of them more likely to be true than the other because they decided to be more convicted in their truth?
what do you mean one more than the other? They're literally convicted of the same thing.
Doesn't it, like that's that's the point. It literally doesn't matter what the level of conviction is. So if they're convicted of the same thing, whether or not they're very, very convicted of their belief is irrelevant to whether or not they're
It's not
true.
irrelevant. It's not irrelevant.
Okay, so say there's one person who's extremely convicted and another person who has zero conviction.
So let
Which
me
one
ask you a
is more
question.
likely to be
If your
true?
doctor tells you you have cancer, you have a brain tumor, right? Are you gonna say that like his conviction doesn't matter?
The level of conviction? No, I don't care about his level of conviction. I care about the level of the evidence.
But you're not a doctor. You can't interpret any of those results.
They have numbers on them. They say you have X% chance of
You don't
having
understand
cancer.
those numbers though.
They literally give you a percent. I do understand those numbers.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So can you explain to me how explain to me how explain to me sort of like in a hypothetical scenario how someone, remediates from cancer?
What remediates? You mean spontaneous remission where
Spontaneous
they get
remediation.
better?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, there's lots of different ways to do that. The cells die, they stop reproducing. So cancer is caused by a genetic mutation in the cell, which causes uncontrolled reproduction. And if there's another genetic mutation in the cells, which kills them and they just stop being able to reproduce, or if they lose their telomeres and they die on their own and it causes the cells to stop uncontrollably reproduce because they die.
Okay.
That's the way to do it. But
Okay, then explain
that's
to
a
me
different
like
topic.
no no no
Let's
no
get
wait
back to
wait
the topic.
no no
So
no this is the topic. So
no, the
explain to
topic
me
is
that
eyewitnesses. People
the
believe they
the topic
saw
is
stuff.
convictions.
Right.
The topic is convictions. First of all, I didn't come here to like put on like a convince you to be in a convince you Colin show. I just
Right. I
came here
don't
to
care
talk
if you
about me.
convince me. My question is should you be convinced by the things you believe? And I think no. So
Okay.
like when you talk about
But
the
I just don't
level,
understand why, like you have to be so uh disinterested in me, and dismissive of me just to
well, I'm that's why I'm asking questions. So
just
like
to get that.
I'm dismissive of the idea that the level of
Oh,
conviction a person has is
I
associated
mean,
with the
all I
level
have to
of
do is like
truth.
just play clips of you, man, and like
Okay.
uh, I'm just
So
saying.
yeah, what I said was is I don't believe that the level of conviction the apostles have any relevance to the truth of their claim. That's the part I'm skeptical of. I don't You personally doesn't make a
Okay.
difference to me. The question
Okay.
is there any rational reason to believe?
So I think here's a problem, right? You're equating personal with emotional. Personal just means you see it as a person, in my sense of using it. Or I didn't even use personal. Wait a minute. That's what you said.
So again, my argument is that the level of conviction that they have of their personal testimony. That's like the evidence. Had a personal experience of Jesus.
So
Remember?
does a quantum physicist like sort of like conviction that, you know, of quantum stuff like sort of all of a sudden like it is irrelevant to whether or not these quantum models are accurate?
Yes, they literally. That's the point of science. It's
Okay.
objective, independent of
Yeah.
level of
All right.
confidence.
Okay. I mean, I don't think we're gonna get anywhere with this because you and I clearly disagree with that one
On
statement.
which statement?
That conviction is irrelevant to
Quantum
one's
physics.
conviction. No, no. I said that the conviction of someone's belief pertaining to a belief that they had witnessed is all of a sudden irrelevant.
Can you say that again?
It says over here that it'll end in 10 minutes. So I think I also have. It's weird because I also got the paid version. So
Oh, it's yeah. You should have infinite time then,
yeah,
because yeah, I get the same problem. It gives like a 40-minute limit. That's dumb.
yeah.
But right. So in the case of physics, level of conviction is irrelevant. Nobody cares how convicted a scientist is of their belief.
Okay, so
Literally, no one
how do
cares.
you define conviction? What is your definition of conviction?
Level of confidence a person has in a belief.
So like, okay, then if a bunch of physicists are not confident in the fact that quantum mechanics doesn't work, that doesn't say anything given their predictability in producing accurate results.
Right. So no one cares what any of the physicists themselves think. They care what the
Okay.
papers demonstrate. So if you have like a
Okay.
paper that makes testable predictions about quantum entanglement and it works, even if all physicists had zero confidence in it, the fact that it works means you don't care what the physicists think.
Can you say that again? Sorry.
So like if let's say all the physicists have zero confidence, they have no confidence, but the papers show that there is a result of testable predictions that is higher than average. Like,
Wait. So wait, I reject that hypothetical scenario. Like, how is that even the case? Like, a paper is produced by people,
right.
so that means they are confident.
No,
Yes, it does.
no, they can publish the results and disagree with them. There are Christian scientists who do this
But
all the
but
time.
they're what? Yeah, okay, but that's having an inconclusive result is not the
No,
same
no, no. There's
thing.
a
Like,
conclusive result. The world is 4 billion years old. Young Earth creationists just say it's wrong. So they publish papers. There are actual young Earth creationist geologists who publish paper in geology on 4 billion-year-old Earth and just don't believe it. So you can publish a paper and not believe the results. Christians do it all the time in science. I don't know why that's
so
a
then
hard one.
so then you're telling me that if all the physicists publish a paper and they don't believe in it, but the paper is still there and they're the only physicists in the world, that all of a sudden, like,
Yes, the level
that's
of
a new
confidence the physicists have is completely irrelevant, and what matters is does the result happen at a higher rate than chance? If so, yes, then the opinion of the physicist means literally nothing. This is something that you can
Of
get.
course it means something.
No, no, it doesn't. That's
Yes, it
Lawrence
does.
Krauss,
Yes, it does.
Neil deGrasse Tyson,
It
Richard
does.
Dawkins have literally said this verbatim. There are no authorities in science.
Of
We don't
course,
care what any of the scientists believe.
it's
We care
not an
about the results.
authority. It's just the fact that you have people presenting
Oh
this
my God.
evidence.
The guy on the corner who's a drunk is very confident.
I'm already schooling you, even though like
No, you're getting destroyed. You're getting destroyed. But
I didn't
so
even come here to like debate you, man. I just came here to talk about myself.
well, I don't care about you. I care about
Oh,
Dan.
that's too bad because I told Jeff that like I'm not interested in giving a comprehensive.
Well, you're succeeding at not giving a comprehensive anything. That's true. But the question was you made a claim that you're trying to discover the most probable explanation. And you said the most
Yeah.
probable explanation is Christianity because
Well, you're the one who asked me for my
yes, and that's
conviction.
yes. I asked that because I'm curious about it because I don't understand it. And so I'm asking questions about why it is the case, and you're giving no justification. You're saying that, well, they
That's
believe it
there's
really strongly, therefore it's
that's
true.
no justification to you, but you know that's
What?
fine.
No,
It's
no, no.
fine.
What
If you
my
want to if you want to
subjective
have
opinion
people
doesn't
talk
matter.
if you want to have people talk about other topics on your channel, and then all of a sudden I want to talk about something else and then you don't care about it, that's fine too. Just like it means we're not cool, because then
Oh,
that means that's discrimination.
yes, discrimination is there are some things I like to talk about and some things I don't. That is definitely discrimination. But so the point
No,
here is
personal discrimination.
personal discrimination. Yes,
Yeah.
there's some things and some people I like to talk to and
No,
actually
no,
don't
no.
like
I'm not
talking to
saying
others.
I'm not saying you don't have the freedom to dislike me and give me, uh, I would suppose like less less wiggle room to talk about what I want on your channel. But that just means I don't have to go to your channel, man.
That's fine. I don't care. But if you can't justify why you think you have a rational position, and the only thing you have is that you
Yes,
think that
yes.
the apostles are just really, really confident, therefore it's true. That's
That's not the only
objectively
thing I
irrational.
have.
Oh, right.
You just said
That
that there
argument.
are you just said that there are no like. How do you come to objectively not rational?
If something that has been proven demonstrably false is the justification for
How
a
have you
belief,
proven that to be demonstrably false, man?
that the level of confidence is independent of the truth of the statement, yeah, that the drunk guy on the corner is very,
Independent. You
very
you
confident.
understand what independent means, right?
Yes, that they are
That it
not
plays
associated.
absolutely no role.
Right. The level
So
of confidence
it's
plays
impossible.
absolutely no
It's
role in the
impossible.
truth of the claim.
Therefore, you're saying right now that's impossible for confidence to affect the
Truth.
truth of a claim.
That's right. The confidence is impossible to
Okay.
affect the truth. They
All
literally
right.
can't work. We
Okay.
know for a
No
fact it can't
problem.
do that. It's called an appeal to emotion fallacy. We have named
It's not
fallacy for
emotion.
this.
Conviction is not the same thing as emotion.
Yes, it is.
You just said you literally were on the record for saying it's how confident you are.
Yes, that's an emotion.
Confidence is not an emotion.
Literally, it's a literally.
It's an epistemological uh stance on a particular claim.
It's which is also an emotion. So all the things in your brain are emotions. If you lose the ability to do emotions, you lose the ability to do logic. All of your thoughts are emotions.
So wait a minute. Let me get this straight. You just said that I'm not objective because I'm emotional, but you just said that everything is
No.
emotion.
Yes, everything's emotional. That's fine. Being emotional doesn't mean you're not
So if
correspondent
you
to
broaden the
reality.
definition of emotion, I don't understand how that all of a sudden means that my arguments are rational. It means your arguments are rational too, man. If you had one, you didn't have one.
So I have plenty of arguments, but so what I said was I never said all emotions are necessarily unjustified. I said that this particular one, the level of conviction someone has been proven
Well,
to
that's
have
not what you
absolutely
said,
nothing to do
though.
with truth.
That's
It
not what
is.
you said.
It
But
is. I never said. I never.
go ahead and like go ahead and like.
That is exactly what I said. I've literally said this on
That's
many
not what you
videos.
said. I'll literally just
Yeah, go for
pull
it.
back.
Because this is the argument I've made for like years. Everyone knows this. The chat knows this. Everyone knows this. That the argument isn't that emotions are inherently
Okay, but
bad.
then I didn't know it,
Okay,
and you didn't present it.
I did. I said the level of conviction is an emotion. It's an appeal to emotion fallacy, and it has
You know what
nothing
a
to do with
rewind
truth.
button does, right?
Yes, I'm familiar with the rewind button.
Oh man. Okay. I think we have like 1 minute. So yeah. Yeah. I don't think this turned out well, but hopefully
Well, the chat is entertained. They are very entertained.
yeah. Yeah.
Do that. Play the clip of Gladiator. Are you not entertained?
Yeah.
All right, you got anything else before the last minute?
I'm trying to think. Hopefully there's like we don't necessarily have to like interact, but like hopefully we can like not necessarily be enemies from this point on, you know.
I don't see anybody as my enemy. Anybody like Darth Dawkins, the person who I disagree with most. I don't see him as an enemy because I have high function autism. So to me, it doesn't make a difference if we agree or disagree. I don't vilify anybody.
Yeah, same. Well, I mean, I don't have autism, but like, I don't vilify people. But yeah, thanks for having me on whatever this show was.
Cool.
Okay, peace.
See ya.